Just to backtrack for a little second, returning to the market and helping people go out there and buy places, what are you saying to keep people motivated this year when they're trying to buy? And where do you think opportunities might be available this year?
Loaded question.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't put that. We didn't put that on the list.
That wasn't on the list. I'm even thinking here, I'm like, man, it's you trying to keep people motivated is super tough. I always tell them, I always preface it, like the first showing we ever do or the first phone call we do, like prepare yourself. This is going to be a slog. It is super tough. Like we have to look at homes below your approved budget.
Yeah. And
it has nothing to do with you guys. You guys can be making amazing bids. What you need to keep in mind is you're always going to be up against random people in the sense of this house might be worth way more to them than what it's actually truly worth. It doesn't mean you guys aren't approved enough to buy a house. Like this house might be worth 500 grand. You guys bid 525, but their parents live around the corner, so they bid 600 grand. Like, so you got that kind of stuff going on. People come in from out of town. So those kinds of things.
You're consoling them in advance.
Trying to console them into feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
Timeline-wise and trying to find deals, I try and tell them we got to look creative or look in other areas that might not be as hot. I think that's really important. And like, I've gotten really weird stuff. Like if there's a weekend that we're really stormy, I find listings don't do as well. Like the last storm, couple weekends, I found there's one or two listings that kind of got way less offers than I would have expected, but I know they canceled a ton of showings. They still took offers on the storm day, and it just was a little quieter. And I'm like, so we have to kind of be ready for those things. So, okay, right when the summer hits and then everyone's getting out of school, there might be a week or two there that instead of there being 40 offers, there might be 15, and there might be a better opportunity to get in.
I feel like it's hard for me personally because I'm not the type of person that pushes somebody to do something. However, like I'm an aggressive person, I'm an aggressive negotiator, but
you'll fight for them.
Yeah, I'll fight for you, but I'm not going to push you.
Like you must write higher offer.
Yeah. So, well, actually, I won't say that they must, but I like you said before, like I think that you kind of have to take them in behind the scenes and show them what's going on so that they have the confidence to make the decision. So in our first time home buyer session this time around, I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to show them a snapshot of what actually happened for growth in our market in the last 12 months. Because if this is still happening, and it happened the year before too, then they should feel good in their asset to say, okay, well, at least when I buy something, this is going to happen to me again by next year.
They're confident in buying.
Exactly. And then go into the tactics of like, okay, so now we discovered why it's still worth buying and actually show them numbers, because like as much as they trust you, like it's pretty annoying to not have that background knowledge and still go all the way in and say, okay, sure, I'll go 120,000 over asking.
Yeah.
And then I feel like we just have to show them way more in behind the scenes than we used to have to before.
Yeah. And it's tricky too because, like you said, you don't want to push someone outside their comfort zone. But
which I won't.
You know, you'd be like remiss to not tell them the reality of the situation. I think we've probably all had instances where, you know, you've been working with a buyer and 6 months go by and you sort of think, in this market, like, damn, if only they had extended a little bit further on that property.
There's a few that hang on and they all kind of make the same. They never want to go quite that far over asking.
And then it's hard to self-reflect and be like, shoot, should I have, you know, encouraged them a bit stronger? Like, you know, no one saw this coming, so it's hard to say, oh, well, I should have known that the market was going to go up 20% and told them to write higher. But it is that balance of you're trying to explain to them the ramifications potentially of not buying now. Like if interest rates go up where they could go up in Q3 and Q4 and prices go up the way we are thinking, you know, the home that you don't want to pay $450 for today could cost you month to month the same as a home that's 400 grand 12 months from now, right?
Yeah,
like
if not more.
Interest rate, so you're trying to constantly balance this. You know, you don't want to project fear and doom and scare them into making an impulse buy.
There's the flip side too. If you push them and then the market does slow down by some chance, there's always that aspect, and you don't want to be the one on that where you've kind of given a big push, trying to give them all the information because it seems like everything's continued to go one way. And then never have any regrets. I always struggle with that where I'm like, I feel like we're overvalue on this.
Right. Yeah, that's
I've sold houses in the past where we've gone overvalue, but the client wanted it so bad. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Like my recommendation's here, you're here, but if you want to do it, let's go. And now everyone's like, look, I told you. But at some point,
but that just goes to show why it's so important to literally show them the in behind. Okay, like this is actually what's going on.
Yeah.
Don't sugarcoat anything.
Then they're confident themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, the one thing we can say with confidence, those rates are going up.
Yeah.
100%.
So even if the market flatlines, you're like, well, gosh, my home didn't go up. You know, after I bought it, my home didn't go up for 36 months. Like, yeah, but you locked in an interest rate that's significantly less than what it's going to be 24 months from now. So there are other benefits, and people are so obsessed with the sticker price and what they're going relative to the ask that you need to bring in these other things, projections past like where the trend is, but also interest rate. Like, would you rather get something now at a low interest rate or get something later that's going to be more expensive and at a higher interest rate? It's hard to come to grips with that, but that is the reality.
And also giving them a push is not going to be any good for how many of these deals end up being flaky. And I feel like it's like the friggin' the Bachelor or the
point.
Bachelorette. You're out there dating 12 different houses. You're not that heavily invested in one.
Yeah.
So then you have buyer's remorse and then your deal's dead. And
Couple runaway brides this year.
It's just
Everyone shoots their shot too because they're just like, well, it's not perfect, but I'll put a bid on it because I just need a house and I'm tired of shopping.
And then they
get
decide
it.
later.
Yeah,
yeah,
they get it, and they're like,
oh.
oh.
You call them and they're like, oh,
We got
I've gotten
it?
that. I've got the few ones like,
Exactly.
instead of them
Yeah.
being like, oh, sweet, they're like, oh.
Oh, I know.
Do we pay
I
too
know.
much? Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
the immediate. The second you have an accept, I find that every time I get an accepted offer, they're like, "Did we overpay?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, "No. It's not
Yeah.
now. Let's not start backpedaling now that we've gotten to this point." On a little bit of a side that only realtors might find funny, but like, I find every time someone calls me and we go out, not every time, but often, the first house we see is the one.
Oh,
it's
that's
the
the
one. We
worst,
get in
though.
there and
It's
I'm like, this
Sometimes,
house is
yeah.
It's less often now because there's so few listings. But I found last year it must have happened like 5 or 10 times. We
They
get
have
into it.
nothing to compare to.
No, and I'm like, I swear to God, I'm not trying to just sound like a pressuring realtor, but we're like, this house is in such good shape and it hits all your targets. Like, we're gonna look at 50 more houses and it's never gonna hit like this one does. And they're
Yeah.
like, okay, we'll go 20 over, and I'm like, we're not getting it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not gonna happen. But anyways, I just every time it happens, I'm like, how do I explain this to them without them thinking I'm just trying to
And
grease them
not
into
to
the first
bring
deal?
back to social media, but in
Yeah.
my head, if
Yeah.
you made this good connection with somebody, sometimes they literally say, "Listen, I feel good about this
I'm in
too."
full faith with you on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, not even necessarily because it's me, but I think they feel like I'm selling it to them less because they
Yeah.
know I'm not going to bullshit them that way from watching some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know they can leave you a 1-star review
Yeah.
on your Instagram page.
And ruin my life.
Thanks for watching that clip from Master Keys podcast. Check out that full episode here. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share our podcast.
When I was broke, I had rich habits. When I was broke, I had rich habits.